don't tell anyone, but this is my very well gate-kept framework that allowed me to rank first at my university. It consists of 5 phases. Phase 0 is the setup. So before the semester even properly starts, I set up everything once. So I'll gather the syllabus, if I can find it. Usually lecturers have put the information up in your module board. I'll find the lecture schedule, any tutorial or problem sheets that I need to do to prep for the first lecture, and of course any past papers or mocks I can find beforehand. Oftentimes they'll give you these as you progress through the year, so don't worry too much about these. I also check if there's any mark schemes or rubrics, which is really helpful for essay-based subjects and mark schemes in general, because that tells you how marks are actually awarded, which I talked all about in my video on how to study less and get higher grades, which you can find here. And then I set 2 very, very strict rules. The first is that I'm not allowed to be more than 7 days behind. I can only at max be a week behind in any module, and this is again a maximum, so ideally you should not be that behind. Well, I should not be that behind, and if I am to be behind, it cannot be any more than 7 days. Now, there is obviously some cases where something's gone wrong and you have fallen being more behind than just 7 days. The absolute maximum is 3 to 4 weeks. Again, it's very much pushing it, but 3 to 4 weeks. And that is this only works with a recovery plan. So you can't just be 1 month behind and doing nothing about it. You need to have a strict recovery plan. I will explain the exact recovery protocol near to the end of the video. There's timestamps left in the description, so use those to help you out, okay? In this dire situation, you need a severe protocol, so please click that and listen to what I have to say. Again, very dire situation, very extreme case. Ideally, this is not what we should be doing if we want to get 90% plus in our exams across all modules. The second rule is that anything I miss in a lecture, or I don't really understand it properly, or I feel like, okay, I need to review this, that gets caught up within 48 hours of the lecture. And if not within 48 hours, because I got busy, then that weekend it needs to be sorted out. And finally, I classify my modules. So is it knowledge heavy? Is it application or method heavy? Or is it essay based? I had modules that spanned all 3 of these classifications, but most STEM modules are application heavy with some knowledge or a good deal of knowledge. And that matters for how I revise later. To make things easier for you, I have actually made another video as a live demonstration of this exact framework and the different parts of it, like the Anki flashcards, the cheat sheets, all of that good stuff. So I will link that for you right here. On to phase 1. So this is the weekly execution, and this occurs during the teaching weeks. I look at the problems, just take a look and see if it's something I already know how to do, something I'm going to have to focus extra hard on, or somewhere in between. During the lecture, I make sure to be 100% focused 100% of the time. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I do not write notes if the lecture notes are already provided, which for me, 99% of cases, it was already provided. Again, for context, I did math and econ at uni. I just focus on really understanding what the lecturer is saying and following along and trying to race him on the examples and get it done beforehand. I say him because most of my lecturers were male, but I also had some female lecturers as well, but him, her, whoever it is, just follow along what's happening and make sure that you try and race them with the examples that they're doing. If you do zone out or miss something, which is natural, just catch it up as soon as you can. If you can't do it that same day when you get back home, just do it the next day. Or again, at the very, very max, just do it that weekend because it's fresh you've done that week. What we want to do is reduce the amount of time we spend relearning information. So the quicker that you can go back to it, the fresher it is in your memory, the less time wasted just trying to relearn and re-understand everything. That's how you maximize efficiency or optimize efficiency. And then within 48 hours, I did the full tutorial or the problem sheet that was assigned to us for that lecture. Again, if things go wrong, if things get messy, then by that weekend, but always, 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 always before the next lecture. When I do tutorials, I always attempt the questions without looking. Usually the first time around I do it, so maybe it's week 2, I've sat through lecture 2, I understand it all. I give the questions a go in the tutorial, but I don't really understand fully the concepts that I've learned because it's too new to fully comprehend. Yes, I allow myself to look at the notes, that's not a problem. But usually I like looking at the questions, giving it a go without any notes. And if I'm stuck, maybe I've given it a go for 5 minutes. I'm stuck, I'm not too hard on myself. I just look at the lecture notes, look at the lecture notes, give it a go, and then check solutions and move on. So every question gets tagged. If it's easy, you give it a tick, you move on, you say, yeah, cool. And if it's hard, then you need to circle the question. And I always circle the questions in red or pink or purple or whatever favorite color that I was feeling that moment. And then I make sure that I'm logging each of these. The reason why why every single one I get wrong has a circle is because You cannot improve unless you fix your mistakes. And so every mistake I make gets logged into one of these 4 categories. This is a super, super important part of this phase, and it applies here before you sit your exams, and it also very much applies after you sit your exams. So it's a framework that I call the UKAO framework. The first letter stands for understanding. So that means I didn't actually get the concept. And the fix for this is to relearn the content properly, really understand the concept, and do questions until I understand, or I can prove to myself that I understand this concept. K stands for knowledge. So I've forgotten a definition, I've forgotten a fact, or I've just forgotten a method. Like I knew the topic, but I've forgotten a specific method to do a specific type of question. That's just content revision, and if needed, of course, an Anki flashcard review, which I'll come to in a moment. Then application comes next. So you knew the content, but you just pick up the wrong method, or you know the topic, you know the content, but you've never seen it being applied in this specific manner. The fix for this is just more questions of the same style, or more questions on the content, just depending on what kind of problem you were facing. So is it just you picked the wrong method, or is it you haven't seen this question in this specific context, in which case practice more of that specific question. And then the last O stands for other, so that's just misreading questions, silly mistakes, time issues, anything else, essentially. So for example, if you've misread, you need to make sure that you read the question twice in your next exam for every single question, and underline or highlight the key points so you don't misread the question and misunderstand. If it's, for example, silly mistakes, then you need to check your work line by line and log the mistakes so you don't repeat it. What I always do, again, I'll mention cheat sheets in a bit, but I always write down what the silly mistake was in my cheat sheet. And so that really has me locked in the sense that I will not make that silly mistake again, because I know this is a silly mistake that I've made before, and I will refuse to make it in the exam when the real exam comes around. Again, do not check your working if you do make silly mistakes right at the end, because your brain switched off, it's moved on to the next question already. You need to check your working line by line. So every time you write a new calculation, like if you do 4 + 4 = 7, check that. And you're like, oh no, it's 8. Correct it, and then move on. And then if it's time, the fix is just more time practice. Those are just some examples. There are very many other silly mistakes you can make, like looking around what your friend's doing in the exam and then wasting all your time. But again, that comes under time management. The next phase is phase 2, and this is early exam exposure. About a month into teaching, I start my exam practice, because why would I leave it right until 1 week before the exam when I'm panicking and I've got tons of other things in my workload as well? No, I start early. A month in, I start doing 1 past paper style question per week, per module. So maybe I'm doing partial differential equations and I'm doing second order homogeneous PDEs. I will do an exam style question from the past papers and problem banks that I can find on that specific topic, just so I know, okay, this is what it looked like in class and in the tutorial problems, but this is what it looks like in the past paper. And you can clearly see the differences as well, because oftentimes there's quite a big difference. In terms of timings, I might do untimed questions early on just to see the style, and then after that, when you actually start your exam practice in terms of full papers, everything must be timed. Do not waste papers doing things untimed, because you just don't have the time for that, or the resources, because it's usually limited number of papers that you can have access to. For essay modules, that means either writing a short essay, so if you have short essay questions, you should be doing 1 of those a week. But if you have a big long essay, then a plan is completely fine, or you can just work on writing a full draft of an essay, but over a couple of weeks. So maybe you do an essay every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. Again here, the goal is not scores. So you're not trying to get 100% every single time. It's a pattern recognition. You need to say, oh, okay, this is the kind of questions that come up in past papers. This is the kind of essays that they like to pick. Or this is how they phrase the essays, etc. So you're looking for patterns across the exams, because exams always have patterns. That's what makes them playable like a game, because they have patterns to them, and you just need to clock what those patterns are, and then you can master them. Okay, so you've gotten this far through the video. That means you're super dedicated. I would appreciate if you gave this video a like if you're enjoying it so far, so I know that this is the kind of content that people like. The next phase is Anki. Okay, phase 3 is Anki rules. So I'm very strict with Anki. So Anki is for things that I must recall precisely and exactly, and if there's a lot of it as well. If I feel very stressed about a module that's content heavy and I'm thinking, oh, like, how am I ever going to learn all this content? I just know if I put it into Anki, it's like a magic system where I know everything will be uploaded into my brain. I don't know how it works, it just does work. As long as, of course, you do it consistently, the flashcards leading up to your exam. Things like definitions, theorems, formulas, and methods for things. So method triggers, so when to use one approach instead of another. All of this stuff will go on my Anki. To be precise, all I really did was just screenshot my lecture slides and put them into my Anki flashcard, because obviously if I memorize everything on my lecture slides, then I have got what I need, all the lecture notes, whatever is provided for the module, then I've got everything I need to be memorized, and I'll be fine in the exam. So it's just everything that needs to be put, that needs to be memorized and put in your brain so you can pull it out unprompted. That stuff needs to go into Anki. And what does not go into Anki is your full work solutions, long derivations, or anything that you already remember reliably. Like, you don't need to put any of that stuff in there. You got to build these cards, this deck, during the semester. So every single week after your lecture, as I said, there's a pre-lecture, during lecture, and post-lecture system. Post-lecture, if the module is content heavy, you need to be uploading your lecture slides, screenshots of lecture slides, lecture notes, whatever it may be, into these flashcards. And the best flashcards are the question, short prompt, one side, and then on the flip side is the answer. Even better if you can reverse and use them. That's the ones that I used, but oftentimes it was just a one way, just because it didn't make sense to like have a lecture slide and figure out the question. But do not review these unless you have midterms. When you need to start reviewing these is about 3 to 4 weeks away from your finals. You need to review these every single day, and if not every single day, then every other day. But what happens is, if you aim for every single day, is even if you miss a few days, even if it's a few days in a row, you end up doing more days than not, and so it works out in the end, even if you miss a few days. So always aim to do every single day when it's leading up to your final exam, and everything will be uploaded into your brain, like how you can upload files onto a USB. It's literally awesome. Phase 4 is the transition to exam mode. Okay, now this is where my system really comes in handy. So everybody else, they're doing whatever they're doing during the semester, and then exam season starts, and then panic mode. But for me, I'm just cleaning up a little bit of mess here and there, because I've been doing my homework and I've been doing my tidying up every single day since the first day of the semester. So the transition to exam mode begins about a month and a half to a month from exam, so 6 to 4 weeks out. And this is once most of the content is done, or ideally all of the content, depending on how soon you finish before your exams. You are now going to switch from just learning and absorbing information to actively testing whether you know that information or not. I start off by redoing all the tutorials. If there's way too many questions and way too many problem sheets, then I focus on the circle stuff. Remember the circle stuff that we were talking about? The circle questions, the circled areas that I found very hard when I attempted everything the first time. That's if there's a lot of content. If there's a manageable amount of content, just do all of the questions again. It's not going to hurt anyone. In fact, it'll benefit you quite a lot. But again, the 80-20 rule applies here. So 20% of your effort is going to lead to 80% of your results. Do not try and do every single question if there's like hundreds and thousands of questions and you're not going to have time. Just be smart about it. Anything that I'm still getting wrong gets recircled. And at the same time, I'm building a cheat sheet. Okay, this is my holy grail, and I've been using it since, I think, GCSEs. A cheat sheet is essentially a piece of paper that if you were to have your exam tomorrow, what would you write on it today to ensure that you essentially pass? If you could just sneak in a sheet of paper, one-sided A4, what would you write in there? A sensible person would write the things that they keep forgetting, the things that they haven't fully mastered yet, anything that they've specifically gotten wrong in their past paper practice, in their tutorial practice, and again, haven't fully committed to memory. Methods that are not fully consolidated, things like that. Also, I find it super helpful to literally write a little note to myself, like, you keep making this silly mistake, you silly baby, and then writing common traps. Like, don't fall for this. Everybody else falls for this, but you do not fall for this. A humorous element to my cheat sheet, and calling myself silly names helps me remember not to do that mistake again. And again, clear, do this, don't do this, throw them in your cheat sheet. So it tells you exactly what to do and what not to do, but also includes all the information that you do not feel 100% confident that you have uploaded into your brain at the minute. Either way, this is great. This is a really great piece. If there's one thing that you take away from this, I would say it's this. So do this leading up to the exams, and you will thank yourself, because when you write down all the specific things that you don't know, that you're confused on, that you really want to learn, and you look at this sheet of paper every day for a week, 2 weeks, everything gets almost imprinted in your brain. Like, when I sat in the exam, I could just picture my cheat sheet and the key information that I needed in the specific area that I needed on the cheat sheet. It was really awesome. I arranged it by doing like the first topic, and then any information that I'd forgotten from the tutorials or past paper questions on that first topic, then move to the second topic, then move to the third topic, and then move to the fourth topic. Of course, as you're doing it, so if you're starting this practice a month and a half out, you're going to have to update your cheat sheet, because you're going to learn a lot of the information on the cheat sheet, and so therefore that's on the cheat sheet that's going to help you in the exam. You need to update it for the one that will actually help you in the exam. And right about 1 week before the exam is a great time to update your cheat sheet and get rid of the things that you don't need to know because you already know them, and so on. Okay, phase 5. So this is after you finished problem sheets. And this is now past papers, everyone's favorite. I don't know about everybody else, but I love doing past papers. And I love doing exams as well, actually. Just some nerdy trivia for you. I love doing exams and I love knowing how to answer the questions, actually. I don't love doing exams and I have no clue. So from the moment that I start the past papers, everything is timed. As I already mentioned, I don't have practice runs. I just do the paper untimed. I find those to be a waste of time, especially because my resources were always scarce. I don't know how everybody else's are, but I was fighting for my life trying to use those past papers. So I was using every single one preciously. So ideally, you want to do as many as you can per module. If you can do between 5 to 10, that's amazing. But realistically, up to 5 is fine. Make sure you time everything correctly. If there is only 1 or 2 available, then you need to use your problem banks given to you by your instructor. You also can use a really cool hack that I mentioned in my study less and get higher grades video, and that is to generate similar style questions for practice using ChatGPT. For my module PDEs, a new lecturer was teaching it and he was revamping the entire module, and so he just had one mock that was actually a representative of his real exam that he was going to give, and so I had to use that preciously. So what I did is I input the mock into ChatGPT and I said, please analyze this mock and create me a mock in this exact style on these exact same topics of questions, and it did that for me. I practiced that. I'm pretty sure I practiced that on time just because I was getting a feel for the questions. I wasn't really too familiar with the past paper questions, and then I got a feel for the practice questions, and then I did the mock paper timed, and I performed much better on that mock because of the generated practice that I'd done before than if I had just jumped in the mock straight away. So yes, save the real papers for the final stretch because that's when it's the most important, and that's when you've also consolidated the information a lot better. So you'll have a more realistic depiction of how you would perform in the exams based on your past papers. Nearer to the exam, you want to be consistently hitting 80 to 90%, even higher if you can, and that tells you that you're ready. So in the final week leading up to the exam, I will read the cheat sheet for that module every single day. As things get memorized, I remove them. By exam day, everything on that sheet is internalized and only my personal failure points remain. So things that are like silly mistakes that you've done this and that and this and that and this and that, that's the only thing that I really need to worry about. So that's fresh in my mind because I've just reviewed it before I've gone to the exam. Hey, do not say 4 plus 4 is 3, you know? That kind of thing. And that is a full phased framework that I use for exam success. And it works every single time. If you really lock in and you really grind it out, 95% plus is very easy. If you use this framework very loosely, you can do barely any work and get firsts. 70%, I promise, is easy. So use this framework loosely if you want just a first like everybody else, and use it strictly if you want a 95% plus if you want to be the top. Okay, this is the recovery protocol if you're actually like super behind that I talked about, like you're a month behind and you don't know what to do. If you fall a month behind, the rule is actually very simple. Do not miss any more lectures. So do not skip current lectures ever. You might think that, hey, I won't understand anything that's going on. It doesn't matter. Just attend the lectures and you need to run 2 tracks at the same time as each other, okay, in parallel. You're attending your lectures, you're doing your catch up like it's the first day that you're attending lectures. You're trying to understand what's going on. You're doing the problem sheets. If you need help, ask your friend next to you. Hey, please refer me to which lecture notes cover this. Do a quick recap as you're going along the lecture today. That is track A. Track B is you need to do a super intensive review of all the old stuff that you've missed. Like say week 1 through till 4 and you have no idea about the basic content. You need to be aggressively revising or reviewing the content that was presented to you in lectures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or whatever's happening today. Okay, even if the new lectures do not make full sense, you attend them. Like I said, you ask your friends which previous topics are being used, and I'm sure your friend will be happy to explain to you because it builds on their understanding. Well, depends on your friends. They might not be that happy. But still, you can always ask them, it helps you. For 4 weeks probably, maybe if you're super aggressive, 2 weeks, but then you'll stabilize. You'll have everything from the first few weeks covered and everything from today onwards covered as well, because you have not been missing things, thinking, oh, I don't know the beginning content, what's the point? My final words are that this system works because nothing is left to chance. You're exposing yourself to exam questions early, your mistakes are being classified, they're being fixed, you're not ignoring anything. Again, if you can master your mistakes and fix them, exams are a walk in the park. It's only focused on what actually loses you marks. Again, patching up where you're losing marks. If you can patch up where you lose marks, you're not going to lose any marks. So this is, again, as it always is, not about working harder, but about removing surprises before the exam. So you need to know exactly the pattern of the exam questions, exactly where you're going wrong and how you're not going to do that again, and exactly what the mark scheme awards marks for, and you cannot go wrong. wrong with that 3-ingredient recipe. If you haven't already checked out the live demonstration video of this exact 5-phased framework, if you haven't checked out the live demonstration of the 5-phased framework, I will again link it here. And if you enjoyed this video, then you're definitely going to enjoy this video that I've made on how to continue studying and stay awake even after a super long day and you're tired. Go on then, click.